Hi, I'm Nick with Additional Crew Film Review, and I'm going to bring you my impressions of a movie about a teenager as part of an interactive video game where he kills innocent victims. Later, the murders become real. I'm, of course, talking about John Flynn's 1994 film, Brainscan. So, Brainscan is a movie starring Edward Furlong as the main character, Michael, and Frank Langella plays a detective, and a guy named T. Ryder Smith plays the trickster. Now, Edward Furlong is the kid from Terminator 2, so you'll immediately recognize him if you don't know who he is. If you need some more information, he's the only person who can make riding on a Vespa look really cool. And he also has a really sordid history. So if you want to look into his history before watching this film, I would only suggest that if you're the sort of person who is willing to forgive, or someone who recognizes that in this movie he was a kid. So this may have been when the damage was being done.
Michael, one sick puppy.
Either which way, Edward Furlong is playing the right character because he is a kid who loves horror movies, he loves horror video games, he loves metal music, and he's extremely relatable in all ways except for a couple. One, he has every single piece of technology you could hope for as a kid, and two, he has absolutely no parents and no parental structure around it all. We find out that his mom died in a car crash, and we find out that his dad is just absentee, just working somewhere out there. He will literally just call and leave phone messages, and that is all we're going to get. However, the technology that Michael gets to work with is some of the coolest stuff ever. I mean, Igor, show yourself.
Yes, master.
It's awesome. And, he's got friends who also like this sort of stuff. And he is willing to try cutting edge things. As he says it himself, he's played them all. So he joins in with Brainscan, which is supposed to be the scariest thing that's ever existed. And what the film turns into is a little bit of an adult version of Little Monsters, right? He gets his own little monster, except for the little monster is a crazy punk-looking dude who also seems to be a killer.
Me. They could bust my fingers one by one, by one, by one. They could dig out my eyes.
Now, this movie, on its head and in the story, it's interesting, but it's not exactly mind-blowing. It's not something so novel and so crazy that you're really into it. What you're getting out of this film,
why do you watch these films?
and what you should be getting out of this film, is entertainment value. One, two, just the awesome special effects. The special effects are particularly well done in this film. I mean, I watched it on VHS, so I can't, if there's a Blu-ray or a 4K version of this, I can't, say how well it looks in there. But I can tell you on VHS, it looks pretty darn good. And for all the times that, we have the trickster played by T. Ryder Smith coming out of a TV, it's just awesome. There are some issues with this film as well, though. Like in the beginning, we have Kimberly, who is played by Amy Hargreaves, take off her shirt, and while it obfuscates the nipples, like the idea that she's taking off her shirt and that we're seeing it, and Edward Furlong is kind of like creeping on her because he's spying from the distance, and we're somehow involved through voyeuristic means, and that's part of the plot of this movie. They're in high school, so I feel like there's just something inherently wrong, and even in 1994 they probably shouldn't be teasing high schooler breasts.
Michael, one sick puppy.
So I'm going to be clear. This movie is not without its problems. However, it does a lot of things really well and really interesting. And it also has a weird moral high horse that seems to exist in this film. It's like horror stuff is bad. We see him watching a movie called Death, Death, Death #2. And they're about eating gallbladders. But we also get a principal who's against these things, who seems to be some form of creep himself, talking about how erections rape people.
Like lighting up a marijuana cigarette and escaping the real world, Like watching a pornographic sex film, getting an erection and raping someone? Is that what you mean?
A lot of strange subtext going on. My best recommendation for Brainscan, and I mean this wholeheartedly, is to just go into this film, shut out all of the noise that is not based on the plot of the killer, because everything else around it is kind of awful. However, the actual killer plot with the trickster and Michael is interesting, and the special effects are done well, and it is really like an adult Little Monsters, and it works way better than that theory should. I think that Little Monster ended up maybe even scarier than Brainscan did. But Brainscan, of course, has the correct rating, so it was able to hit some special effects and ideas that you couldn't hit with Little Monsters, because Little Monsters had to be viewed by kids. This didn't have to be viewed by kids. This could be viewed by just strictly adults. So when he pops out his eyes, you don't necessarily see the eyeballs, but you do see blood. And one of the coolest scenes, even if it's done with like some CGI distortion, is when the trickster reveals himself to just be some, brainwave of Michael, and he decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to eat Michael. And I don't know. I've only ever seen this in one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I don't remember which one, but it's the one where he opens up his mouth really wide and he goes to swallow it. He's got the kids all over his chest, and this movie attempts that with the trickster. The trickster eats Michael, and it just looks so cool. So the special effects in this movie are, in fact, special. All of the technology in this movie is, in fact, special. It looks really quite cool. What isn't special about this film is the ideas that he espouses about violence and escapism, and kind of just what it leads to. I mean, all the things in this movie are so cool. We have metal music, we have horror movies, we have horror video games. I love these things. And you know what I would never do is I don't think that it has led to as many people becoming cold killers as this movie would, kind of lead you down. The detective, played by Frank Langella, Detective Hayden, never once shows any sort of, compassion for the kid. And, if he had just opened himself up for a second, maybe at one point Michael might have told him the truth. And then we get the ultimate twist of this film that it all didn't really happen. It's all just kind of in his head. And that was the actual game, which is always a rug pull that hurts a little bit. It all being part of the game felt really bad, especially because it removed all the stakes of what we had just seen. And like, this movie had that opportunity to end on a really dark note with Michael killing Kimberly, or attempting to, and then getting shot by the detective Hayden. But instead he wakes up and he's like, oh, it was all just a game. Wow, that was awesome. I hate it. It's the worst thing ever. That game's killed a bunch of people in real life. And now I'm going to go over to Kimberly's, because she secretly likes the fact that I watch her. She knows that I watch her, and she's been watching me back. And it's all just this crazy thing, And I suppose that there are people out there like Michael and Kimberly who enjoy the voyeuristic side, and they actually find each other. But you shouldn't spy on people, and you shouldn't set up cameras in your, attic and watch people across the street.
Michael, one sick puppy.
The moral nature of this movie is very confusing, and I think it would just do better without it. I think the trickster tricking people into killing people is engaging. It's a good film, and the special effects are engaging. The morals are bad. This doesn't make sense. So I really would recommend watching this movie if you want something cool. Don't watch this movie if you want to pick up on subplot. With that said, though, Brainscan does, in fact, rock, and I really suggest watching it if you are ready for that. Check it out. Igor, end the review.
Goodbye, Master.
Roll